Good morning and welcome to today's financial aid chat with the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University. I'm Stuart Perry, Executive Director of Financial Aid for St. Ben's and St. John's. And assisting me today is a group of staff members from our financial aid and admission operation. They will be responding to the questions that you all submit, and I will be providing you with some audio of the slides that you'll be seeing and exploring in a little bit more detail the financial aid process. We're focusing today on need-based financial aid. I do have one slide that'll come up first on merit-based scholarships, but just so you know, the focus today is on the need-based financial aid process and the steps to apply. But as I said, we have one slide here with just a little bit of information about our merit scholarship programs. They go under the names Deans, Presidents, and Honors. Those are our primary ones, I should say. We do have some other scholarships that are explained on our admission website, but our primary merit scholarships are listed here. There's not a separate application for these. These scholarships are determined based on the application for admission. They are automatically renewed, as the slide says, from year to year. Nothing your son or daughter has to do to reapply for these. We do, however, ask that a student maintain a 2.0 cumulative GPA. And you may feel that that's kind of a lower GPA, but we set that purposefully low so students have time to do the other activities and programs that are available to them at St. Ben's and St. John's without the fear or pressure of having to maintain a high GPA to maintain your scholarship. Scholarships will stay at the same level for 4 years, so that's something we want families to be able to count on, is that scholarship level or scholarship funding from year to year, again, without a need to reapply for that. That's the main information I wanted to share about scholarships. Again, our admission website, and we'll have more details about other scholarships we offer, fine arts and so forth. But shifting then to a little bit more focus on need-based aid. This slide essentially gives you the two primary steps for applying for need-based aid. And the first step I usually will encourage families to do is to create an FSA ID. And many of you maybe have already done this, which is great. But the FSA ID is the way that a student and parent signs the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So the FSA ID serves as your legal signature. It's made up of a username and a password, and the website where you would create your FSA ID is listed here. The federal government will encourage you when you create this to keep it confidential, keep it secure. Again, you'll create one for the student and one for at least one parent, because the FAFSA does require a signature of the student and a parent. When you set up and create your FSA ID, you want to make sure that you use a separate email for the student and parent. And this will serve as the way you sign your FAFSA, not only in the first year, but in future years as well. So the FAFSA itself, step 2, is the free application for federal student aid. It does not cost to complete and file the FAFSA. The website is given here, just fafsa.gov or www.fafsa.gov will get you there. Now at this point in time, if you go to that website, as you may know, you have access to the 2017-18 FAFSA as well as the 2018-19. So obviously if you are a current senior in high school, it's the 2018-19 FAFSA that you want to be completing. The FAFSA is available now. It became available October 1, and I suspect, again, a number of you may have already filed, and that's great. We indicate here a priority deadline of March 15, but the sooner you file, the sooner you can find out, or if there's supporting or follow-up documents we need, the sooner we can get that information to you. We have received numerous FAFSAs from admitted students, and so if you submitted yours and you've got your letter of admission, you're probably in our database. We have not started reviewing FAFSAs yet, but we will soon, likely this week or early next week. and then plan to send out the first batch of award letters sometime probably in early to mid-December. You will do a FAFSA each year that you want to be considered for need-based aid. And the FAFSA for 18-19, when you get in there, it's again, if you've done it, you know this, it's going to be asking for 2016 income and tax information. And what this is called is prior. So it's going back 2 years and asking you for your income and tax information from 2016. A common question we get involves families who ask, well, do I go back into the FAFSA and update it with my 2017 information after I file my taxes? And the answer to that is no. The federal government wants you to provide your 2016 tax information, and that's what will be used as the basis for your financial aid review. And you do not go back in when your taxes are done and provide 2017 income information. There are 6 sections to the FAFSA, and the best advice I can give is really to refer to the instructions as you work through the FAFSA. Specifically, and most importantly, there's a section on financial information, and that's really where you want to make sure you are reading the instructions. If you're not certain what they're asking for, there will be instructions there kind of floating on the right-hand side of the FAFSA, and that's what you want to refer to, again, if you have questions about questions that you're being asked. Specifically, I would point to the sections on untaxed income and investment or assets. Make sure you're reporting only the assets and investments that are required on the FAFSA. Specifically, you are not to report retirement savings or home equity, the value of your home. So again, the FAFSA instructions will clarify that, but those are 2 of the common mistakes that we see and try to help families with. Okay, I've put up a slide that shows a screenshot of the first page of the FAFSA, just for your reference. There is a lot of information really on this front page, and the first step obviously is to click on that Start a New FAFSA if you're going in there for the first time. If you go back into your FAFSA, sometimes you'll want to add an additional school code, so another college gets your FAFSA results. You would log back in to do that. If you need to make a correction to something on your FAFSA, you would log back in after you've submitted it. But this is the opening page of the FAFSA, and again, refer to the information here as needed. Part of completing the FAFSA, on my next slide here, this provides you with the federal school codes for St. Ben's and St. John's. In the college section there, you're going to indicate which schools you want your FAFSA results sent to, and young women will use the CSB code, and young men will enter the St. John's University federal school code. Within this section of the FAFSA, there's also the option to do a search. So if there's a college you want your results sent to and you don't know their school code, you can look it up right within the FAFSA. Also in the financial information section, again, for those of you who have done this, this will be familiar, but you're going to have the option to provide your income and tax information through a process called the data retrieval tool. And I'm going to put up another screenshot in a second of the FAFSA page where you'll see this. But this is, again, the way that the federal government is encouraging families to submit their income and tax information. It ensures that the income and tax figures that you submit on the FAFSA are the correct ones. And also, by using the data retrieval tool, you will lessen your chances of being selected for a process called verification. And verification basically means that the financial aid offices are required to verify or confirm the accuracy of the information you submitted. And we do that usually through asking you to submit to us a copy of a tax return transcript that you would request from the IRS. So using data retrieval, again, lessens the chances of being selected for that review process called verification. And again, it's again the recommended way to provide your income and tax data on the FAFSA. So this is a screenshot then of the page on the FAFSA, again in the financial information tab, where the instructions are encouraging you to what's called link to the IRS, and you'll see that kind of in the center of the screen here. And that's what it looks like. You'll click on link to the IRS to initiate that process. The next screen you see then is here, where it indicates and clarifies that you're leaving FAFSA on the web and you're going to be transferred to an IRS website to access your tax information. The first screen you get to after that then just gives you a quick warning that you are accessing an IRS government system. And it's just a warning message. You click OK, and then you'll proceed through the process. So this is kind of like a temporary little detour within the FAFSA to get your income, tax, and other information over. It's not all your tax information that comes into the FAFSA, just certain items, including adjusted gross income and federal taxes paid. Okay, so that's kind of a nutshell of the FAFSA. Again, you'll work through the sections and then make sure you provide your FSA ID as a signature, and then you'll submit the FAFSA. And the colleges for which you provide the federal school code will get your FAFSA results within 3 or 4 business days, and you will then get a financial aid package from those schools who have your FAFSA and from the schools that you've been admitted to. Okay. If you have questions as you're working through your FAFSA, again, each college has a financial aid office, and their job is to help families through that process. So certainly call in or email if you have questions about your FAFSA, that maybe you have a unique situation or something different that you want to get clarification on. That's what we're here for. So if your FAFSA does get selected for verification, we will notify you of that. And we will ask you then to complete what's called the St. Ben's St. John's Financial Aid Application. The website for that is listed here. Again, normally you only have to do this if you're selected, and we will, as I said, let you know if that's the case. Our official way of communicating is through email. So make sure that you and your child are monitoring the email address that you provide on the FAFSA. Okay. St. Ben's and St. John's also have a special circumstances form, and this form allows families to provide us with information that they'd like us to take into consideration as we prepare and review their financial aid application. There are a limited number of scenarios that can be considered for special circumstances, and the most common ones are listed here. So the form is also available on our admission website, and we will review those on a case-by-case. You'll typically submit the special circumstances form after you file the FAFSA. Okay, and you can submit that whenever. We do require documentation as our form outlines, and that also is a requirement of the federal government. If we're going to review and possibly make changes to your FAFSA based on special circumstances, we need to have documentation of that information. So don't be offended if we ask for that. That's just a federal requirement. There is no place, as this slide indicates, to report unusual circumstances directly on the FAFSA. You have to go to the individual financial aid offices at the colleges your son or daughter is applying to have that taken into consideration. Okay, our costs for the coming academic year are not yet finalized by our Board of Trustees, but I am showing a slide here that indicates our costs for the current academic year. The tuition fees, room and board, those are what we call direct costs or billable costs. Those are the charges we would bill through our student accounts office. And if I was estimating kind of what we would see in the future, I would probably use an inflation factor of about 3% to 3.5% if you're wanting to project what these costs might be, down the road. The bulk of these figures for St. Ben's, again, the current total is $54,480. The bulk of that is tuition. Obviously, room and board combined are about $10,000, and the balance of that is tuition and fees. For books, we estimate, as it says here, students will need about $1,000 a year or $500 per semester. Sometimes they can get by cheaper if they're able to access a lot of used books. things like that to save costs are certainly a good idea. Our costs for 2018-19 next year will be finalized and published on our admission and student account websites probably sometime in January or February. So be looking for those. We'll put them out there as soon as we can, but be looking for those on our admission and student account websites. I just wanted to put up an award example just to see, or just to show you what we might call a financial aid package. And it's called a package because it includes different types of financial aid, and in some cases, or oftentimes, different sources of financial aid. So in this example, we have a merit scholarship, a President's Scholarship. We have a need-based St. John's grant, and we have student employment, which is a work opportunity for a student to earn up to, in this case, $3,400 over the course of the year. And then most financial aid packages will include a student loan component as well. In this case, $5,500 represents the maximum a first-year student can borrow through the federal direct loan program. And then it gives you a total financial aid package. So in other cases, there might be different types of federal grants or state grants in a financial aid package, but we will kind of customize your aid package based on our review of your FAFSA and take into consideration the financial situation that your family is in. A little bit of detail on student employment. About 60-65% of our students actually work on campus. So it's a large program at St. Ben's and St. John's. We know that it contributes to a student's educational experience. Students oftentimes talk about their work-study experience when they're interviewing for jobs or graduate school. So we will consider students for student employment as they file the FAFSA. We do have to give priorities to students who demonstrate financial need. We have some years we'll have more students than jobs available, and some years it's the other way around. So it really varies from year to year. But typically, if someone really wants to work, we can provide a space for them. Some students, if they aren't offered a work study, might have a chance to find a job after the school year is underway through a work waiting list. And that's a process whereby any job that remains open 3 to 4 weeks, as the slide indicates, into fall semester can pursue any open job. So again, we have jobs for just about anybody who wants to work. Again, the typical award, as the slide indicates, is $3,400 for this coming year, and that works out to about 10 to 12 hours per week. Some students who demonstrate maybe less financial need would be offered what we call a half-work award, enabling them to earn about $1,700 over the course of the academic year. We will send instructions in the summer months leading up to fall to students who are enrolled, who have a work award as part of their financial aid. We will send instructions, as I said, helping them to find a job on campus. We'll direct them to a website where the jobs are listed, and there's a description of the jobs and a contact or a link to apply for those jobs. So we'll send more information about that as the fall semester approaches. Okay, a little bit about student loans. Again, as I indicated earlier in the award example, the first year loan limit for the federal direct loan is $5,500, and students may receive either a combination of a subsidized and unsubsidized direct loan. The subsidized version of the direct loan has no interest, as the slide indicates, while the student's in school. The unsubsidized loan does have interest while the student's in school. So that interest accrues starting from the time that the loan funds are dispersed to St. Ben's or St. John's. The interest rate on federal direct loans is set by Congress, and it gets adjusted each July. The current rate for the 17-18 year, as indicated here, is 4.45%. There's also a federal loan that parents may make use of to cover costs that are not covered in that financial aid package, and that's called the Federal Plus Loan. Parents can complete a Plus Loan request form that we have available, and the parent borrower does have to pass a credit check that is completed by the federal government. The limit on Plus Loans is basically the cost of attendance minus the student's financial aid. So parents may finance some portion or all of the remainder of costs, again, not covered by financial aid. Congress also sets the interest rate on the PLUS loan, and right now that's at 7%. And as with the direct loans, we will know the new rate in place for 18-19 sometime this summer. Some students and parents will decide to make use of a private education loan through a lender like Wells Fargo or Sallie Mae and a few others. These loans are in the student's name, but they do require a cosigner. Like with a PLUS loan, the students may borrow up to the cost of attendance, less other aid. And the interest rates on private student loans vary based on the cosigner's credit. There are a couple private loan programs, for example, the self loan through the state of Minnesota, that will tell you the interest rate up front before you apply, but then the cosigner has to pass the credit check that the self-loan program sets for that loan program. So in some cases, private loan interest rate will be determined on the cosigner and their credit. In other cases, the interest rate can be known ahead of time at the time you apply. So PLUS loans are all loans, again, not the favorite way people apply for pay for college, but more and more it's a common way that families finance, again, some portion of the cost of attendance. Outside scholarships. We encourage students to apply for outside scholarships. Obviously, these are ways that you can help, again, pay for college. The usual best source of information is with your high school guidance counselor. Local organizations in your community will frequently communicate with your high school guidance counselor about scholarships that they offer to students in their community. So check with your high school guidance counselor as a first place if you haven't already. You can also go online, of course, and just do scholarship searches, and there's a lot of organizations and websites you can pursue. It really is a matter of how much time you have to spend on that. We suggest that you not pay for a scholarship search. There are organizations that will take your money to do that. In our experience, they don't prove to be as very fruitful relative to the charges. We're not going to reduce your scholarship if you win outside scholarships. So that's something that, again, most colleges do that, but it's a good question to ask colleges. And then we also at St. Ben's and St. John's maintain a list of outside scholarship programs, and the website for that is listed here. That's, again, through our admission webpage. But you can use that list whether you enroll at St. Ben's and St. John's or not. That's a website or a webpage that's publicly available. If you want to check out some of those resources, feel free to do so. That brings me to the end of the material that I wanted to talk about. And as I said, the Q&A will continue, and we'll continue responding to questions that people have. But we will conclude the audio portion shortly and continue, as I said, answering your questions. Again, the Financial Aid Office, we have an office at St. Ben's and an office at St. John's. So as needed, feel free to contact us, set up appointments. If you're on campus for a visit and you want to discuss financial aid questions, we're happy to meet with families and try to walk you through the process as needed or respond to individual questions that you may have. So again, appreciate you listening today and participating in the chat thus far, and we'll look forward to answering and providing some information to the Q&A. Have a good day, everyone.